Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Today inshallah we will discuss femur. The femur is the longest and the heaviest bone in the body. It transmits the body weight from the hip bone to the tibia when a person is standing. Its length is approximately a quarter of the person's height. The femur consists of a shaft or a body and two ends. One is superior end and one is inferior end. The superior end is also called as the proximal end because it is more closer to the center of the body, and the inferior end is called as the distal end or the lower end because it is away from the center of the body. See here in this diagram, you can see the shaft or the body of the femur, and we have the superior end and the inferior end of the femur. The superior or the proximal end of the femur consists of a head. See here, they have shown the head in red color. This is head, then this yellow colored neck, and there are two trochanters. This is greater trochanter and there is one lesser trochanter. So this is head, neck, greater trochanter and lesser trochanter. The round head of the femur makes up 2/3 of a sphere. See here, it is making 2/3 of a sphere that is covered with articular cartilage, except for a small medially placed depression or a pit, which is called as the fovea for the ligament of the head of the femur. See here, this is one area, a small pit which is not covered with the articular cartilage, and it is giving attachment to the ligament of the head of the femur. In early life, the ligament gives passage to an artery which is supplying the epiphysis of the head. The neck of the femur, it is trapezoid or trapezoidal in shape with its narrow end supporting the head. See here, this is the narrow end of the neck which is supporting the head, and there is a broader base of the neck of the femur which is continuous with the shaft of the femur. Its average diameter is about 3/4 that of the femoral head. So this is neck of the femur. See here, this is on the posterior side. Again we can see the head, then this is the neck, this is greater trochanter of the femur, and this is lesser trochanter of the femur. The proximal femur is bent. It is L-shaped. See here, it is bent and it is L-shaped so that the long axis of the head and neck, this is the long axis of the head and neck, it projects superior medially at an angle to that of the obliquely oriented shaft. This obtuse angle, okay, this is making an obtuse angle which is also called as the angle of inclination. It is greatest at birth and it gradually diminishes until the adult angle is reached, which is about 126 degrees average. The range is about 115 to 140 degrees. See here, I will explain and again, this is angle of inclination. The angle of inclination is in between the long axis of the head and the neck of the femur and the long axis of the length of the shaft of the femur. Okay, this angle is more at birth and it will decrease as the age proceeds. It is in females also, this angle is less because of the increased width between the acetabula, because there is a wider lesser pelvis in female and the greater obliquity of the femoral shaft. So remember this thing, this angle of inclination is less in females, okay, and it is more in small children or more at birth. This angle of inclination allows the greater mobility of the femur at the hip joint because it places the head and the neck more perpendicular to the acetabulum in the neutral position. This angle of inclination is very important, okay. Sometimes what happens, the angle of inclination decreases, okay, so this condition is called as coxa varus, and if this angle increases, it is called as coxa valgus. Coxa valgus. So remember these two terms also, coxa varus and coxa valgus. When the femur is viewed superiorly, see here, if we view the femur superiorly, so that one is looking along the long axis of the shaft, it is apparent that two axes lie at an angle. Again, the two axes, one axis of the head and neck and one axis of the condyles of the femur. It is making another angle which is called as the torsion angle or the angle of declination, the mean of which is 7 degrees in male and 12 degrees in females. The torsion angle combined with the angle of inclination allows the rotatory movement of the femoral head within the obliquely paced acetabulum to convert into the flexion, extension, abduction, adduction and rotational movements of the thigh. So remember the angle of torsion, which is also called as the angle of declination and the angle of inclination. See here in this diagram, the angle of inclination is more, that is about 135 degrees in the 3-year-old child, but it will decrease, which is about average 126 degrees in adult, okay, but in old age also it will decrease more, okay, it is about 120 degrees in old age, okay. Here in this diagram they have shown the torsion angle of the femur. We will take two axes for the torsion angle. One axis is along the femoral head and the neck of the femur, and another axis is the transverse axis of the femoral condyles, okay. Remember again, one axis is the axis of the femoral head and the neck, and one axis is the axis of femoral condyles. So angle between these two axes is called as the torsion angle or the angle of declination, okay. Where the femoral neck and the shaft join, see here in this diagram, when the neck and shaft join, there are two blunt elevations. These elevations are called as the greater trochanter and the lesser trochanter. See in this diagram, this is the neck of the femur and this is the shaft of the femur, and here at the junction there are two trochanters. One is called as greater trochanter because it is big, and one is called as the lesser trochanter because it is small. The greater trochanter give attachment to the abductors and the rotators of the thigh. The site where the neck and shaft join is indicated by intertrochanteric line. See here, intertrochanteric line can be viewed on the anterior surface of the femur. This is called as intertrochanteric line, that is the line in between the two trochanters. That's why it is called as intertrochanteric line. This line is visible only on the anterior surface. It is a roughened ridge which is formed by the attachment of a powerful iliofemoral ligament. The intertrochanteric line runs from the greater trochanter and winds around the lesser trochanter to continue posteriorly and inferiorly as a less distinct ridge which is called as spiral line, or the pectineal line. What I have told you, see here, the intertrochanteric line is visible on the anterior surface. It is in between the greater and the lesser trochanter. This line will run on the back also, and it will be continued as pectineal line or the spiral line. See here, this is the pectineal line or the spiral line on the posterior surface. It is the continuation of the intertrochanteric line. There is a similar but very smoother and more prominent ridge which is called as intertrochanteric crest. See here, intertrochanteric crest. It joins the trochanters posteriorly. That is what we have learned. Intertrochanteric line is present on the anterior surface, but the intertrochanteric crest is present on the posterior surface. The round elevation on the crest is called as quadrate tubercle. Okay, there is a quadrate tubercle which is present on the posterior surface over the intertrochanteric crest. Okay, so you have to remember this thing. This quadrate tubercle is visible in this diagram. You can see here this quadrate tubercle is present on the posterior surface on the intertrochanteric crest. Most of the shaft is smooth. See here, it is smooth, rounded, providing fleshy origin to the extensors of the knee, because on the anterior surface we have extensors of the knee, except posteriorly where a broad rough line, see here, broad rough line which is called as linea aspera, which is present on the posterior surface. It provides aponeurotic attachment for the adductors of the thigh, okay. This vertical ridge is especially prominent in the middle third of the profemoral shaft. See here, the linea aspera is more prominent in the middle of the shaft, okay, because it has two margins of the linea aspera. There is a medial margin or the medial lip of the linea aspera, and there is the lateral margin of the linea aspera. This is the lateral margin, okay. How you will know which is the medial part or the medial side of the femur and which one is the lateral side of the femur? Always remember, this head of the femur is over the medial side. Wherever this head is present, this understand this thing that this is the medial side, okay. But you should put the femur in the normal anatomical position. What is the normal anatomical position of the femur? The femur shaft, its anterior side or anterior surface is very smooth, but the posterior surface has this rough linea aspera. So what you have to do, first of all, you have to place the femur so that the smooth part of the shaft will come anterior and the linea aspera will come posterior. Then number two, what you have to do, you have to place this head of the femur on the medial side, okay, and the greater trochanter on the lateral side. Remember this thing. Then this femur will be in the normal anatomical position. See here, on the posterior surface, the lateral lip will go up and it will blend with the broad rough gluteal tuberosity, okay. So this is the lateral side of the femur, and you can see the lateral lip of the linea aspera. When it is going above, it is forming or it is blending with the tuberosity which is called as the gluteal tuberosity, whereas the medial lip continues as a narrow spiral line or the pectineal line, which will be continuous with the intertrochanteric line on the anterior surface, okay. I will revise each and every feature again. The spiral line which is present on the posterior surface, it extends toward the lesser trochanter. See here, it extends toward the lesser trochanter, but then passes to the anterior surface of the femur where it is continuous with the intertrochanteric line. The prominent intermediate ridge, the pectineal line, extends from the central part of the linea aspera to the base of the lesser trochanter. In some books, the spiral line and the pectineal line, they are written separately, but in some books they are written as a same line because the location is same, okay. It is a line which is coming from the medial lip of the linea aspera and it is projecting toward the lesser trochanter, and it is present on the posterior surface of the femur, and it is continuous with the intertrochanteric line on the anterior surface. So maybe it is the same line which is the pectineal line and the spiral line. Inferiorly, the linea aspera divides into two medial and lateral supracondylar ridges. You can see here, this is linea aspera. When it is going down, it is dividing into two supracondylar lines, okay. Why they are called as supracondylar lines? Because these lines are above the condyles of the femur. That's why they are called as supracondylar line. The line on the medial side is called as medial supracondylar line. This is the medial supracondylar line, and the line on the lateral surface is lateral side is called as the lateral supracondylar line, which lead to the medial and lateral condyles respectively. The medial and the lateral femoral condyles make up nearly the entire inferior or distal end of the femur. The two condyles are on the same horizontal level when the bone is in the normal anatomical position, so that if an isolated femur is placed upright with the both condyles contacting the floor or the tabletop, the femoral shaft will assume the same oblique position it occupies in the living body, about 9 degrees from the vertical in male and slightly greater in female. So this is the normal anatomical position that the two condyles they have fixed or they have put on the tabletop, so that they are at the same plane, the two condyles, but the shaft will be placed obliquely, okay. So this is the normal anatomical position of the femur. The femoral condyles will articulate with menisci, which are the crescentic plates of the cartilage, and they will articulate with the tibial condyles. Can you see here? This is the lateral condyle of the femur and this is the medial condyle of the femur, and it is articulating with the condyles of the tibia, okay, to form the knee joint. It is forming knee joint. The condyles are separated posteriorly. See here, they are separated posteriorly and inferiorly by a shallow groove which is called as intercondylar fossa. See here, this is intercondylar fossa, but they will merge anteriorly. See here in this diagram, they will merge anteriorly and form a smooth surface which is called as the patellar surface, but posteriorly they were separated by a shell groove which is called as intercondylar fossa. Okay, then the patellar surface will articulate with the patella. This patellar surface will articulate with the patella. The lateral surface of the lateral condyle, see here, this is the lateral surface of the lateral condyle, has a central projection which is called as lateral epicondyle. Epi means above, so there will be epicondyle which is above the condyle. So on the lateral side also there is lateral epicondyle, and on the medial side also there is medial epicondyle, and superior to the medial epicondyle there will be another elevation which is called as the adductor tubercle, which forms in relation to the tendon attachment. There will be adductor tubercle also. The epicondyles provide proximal attachment for the medial and the lateral collateral ligaments of the knee joint. See here, this is the lateral collateral ligament and this is the medial collateral ligament. The medial collateral ligament is also called as the tibial collateral ligament because tibia is present medially, and the lateral collateral ligament is called as the fibular collateral ligament because the fibula is present laterally. See here again the lower ends of the femur. This is lateral side of the femur having the lateral condyle of femur, lateral epicondyle of femur. This is medial side having the medial condyle, medial epicondyle, and there will be adductor tubercle over the medial epicondyle. There will be patellar surface on the anterior surface of the femur. This is the posterior surface of the lower end of the femur. This is lateral condyle, this is medial condyle. There will be medial epicondyle and lateral epicondyle, but there is only adductor tubercle on the medial side, and there is medial supracondylar ridge and lateral supracondylar ridge which are present on the posterior surface. In between the medial and the lateral supracondylar ridges or supracondylar lines, there is a surface which is called as the popliteal surface. It will give attachment to the popliteus muscle. See here again, this is the same diagram for the lower end of the femur. So what we have discussed, I will revise again some of the features for the femur. See here, this is the proximal or the superior end of the femur having the head. The head is giving attachment to the ligament or the articular cartilage for the head of the femur, but a small pit will remain there which will be not covered by the articular cartilage, and this is called as the fovea, which will give attachment to the ligament of the head of the femur. Okay, so this is the head of femur. Then there will be neck of the femur, and then there will be the shaft of the femur, but the upper end also contains two trochanters. One is called as the greater trochanter and one is called as the lesser trochanter. The upper end is having three parts: head, neck, and the greater and lesser trochanters. Okay, I have discussed the angle of inclination also, which is in between the long axis of the head and neck of the femur and the long axis of the shaft of the femur. This angle is called as angle of inclination. The line between the greater and the lesser trochanter on the anterior surface is called as intertrochanteric line. This intertrochanteric line is continuous on the posterior surface with the spiral line or the pectineal line. In some books they are same, but the spiral line is somewhat below, and the pectineal line, you can say it is just closer to the lesser trochanter. The lesser trochanter and the greater trochanter, they are also separated by a ridge on the posterior surface, which is called as intertrochanteric crest. Line on the anterior surface and crest on the posterior surface. On the intertrochanteric crest, there is a small tubercle which is called as quadrate tubercle, Then we have the shaft of the femur. The anterior surface of the shaft of the femur is very smooth, but the posterior surface of the shaft of the femur has a prominent ridge, which is called as the linea aspera. The linea aspera has two lips, medial lip on the medial side and lateral lip of the linea aspera on the lateral side. The lateral lip of the linea aspera will go above and it will be continuous with the gluteal tuberosity. Okay, but the medial lip of the linea aspera will be continuous above with the spiral line and the pectineal line, and then to the lesser trochanter. The linea aspera will be divided into two lines inferiorly. These lines are called as the medial supracondylar line and the lateral supracondylar lines on the lateral side. Then we have the lower end of the femur. See here, the anterior surface of the lower end of the femur, we have lateral condyle, we have medial condyle. How we will know that this is the medial side and the lateral side? We will see the head of the femur. The head of the femur will be on the medial side of the femur because it will articulate with the acetabulum of the hip bone to form the hip joint. Okay, so we have the medial condyle, we have lateral condyle, then we have medial epicondyle and lateral epicondyle. Then we have the adductor tubercle above the medial epicondyle. Okay, we see here the posterior surface of the lower end of the femur. We have medial condyle, medial epicondyle, adductor tubercle. We have the intercondylar fossa in between the medial and the lateral condyle. And we have the lateral condyle and lateral epicondyle also. Then again we have the medial supracondylar line and the lateral supracondylar line, which are bounding a surface which is called as the popliteal surface. So I hope you understand the femur. It is very, very easy.